Thank you. Lisa started the conversation. Nice and clear presentation, easy to follow. I would definitely agree with that. And I especially want to commend the two presenters. They were so clear. I did not hear any hesitation in their speech at all. It was a very clear and polished delivery. I really was impressed with that. From SE, they took into account many different aspects in the problems and solutions, and the solutions answered directly to the stated problems. Thank you, SE. Do you see how if there is a strong link between the problem definition, the alternatives, and the recommendations, then it becomes more persuasive. So this is a skill that we all have to develop. Whenever we are in a position of managerial responsibility to do any kind of research and we have to persuade the upper management, it's always in this format. And if you can define the problem well, you analyze the alternatives to solving the problem, and then you make some actionable recommendations, then if all those three are well connected logically, then it definitely convinces the audience better. So I do think they had a very clear structure and a logic through all of the presentation. What else did people like about the presentation that Group 11 made? So let me make some more additional observations, but I do want you all to be able to participate in this. So feel free to jump into the chat at any point. I thought it was nice to have the pictures of all the team members in the beginning and the opening slide, the title slide, because that again gives some more, connection to the audience. I do think it would be better to have a kind of window with the speaker actually speaking visible from each slide. But for that, you need to learn a software called Camtasia, Camtasia. If you remember in the Amazon presentation, a couple of groups had that, where not only do you have the bullet points, but you have the window with the speaker. So as you develop further your video marketing skills, I would urge you all to try to learn Camtasia, because that is video of the speaker, which is better than a photograph, but the photographs were good. Another thing I noticed is that you had music at the end, and you had a nice slide with, your consulting company based in Skinnarillan, and so that music, I would have brought the music up to the front of the video before you introduce the title slide, so it would be a little more exciting, or put people in the right mood to listen to the rest of the video. Okay, so those were some of the issues with regard to the style of the presentation. Now let's go to content. You had several actionable recommendations. Let's see if any of the class members have any comments on, your strategy and how it's going to be implemented. So does anybody have any comments on the recommendations that Group 11 made? So I don't see anybody volunteering to make any comments on the recommendation. So I'm going to give a few of my own. I think the focus on the B2B is quite makes sense. Clearly those people are need more help in terms of scaling up their business. The B2C businesses are a little more sophisticated, so they know a little more about inbound marketing, but the B2B folks need the help. And so when you focus on B2B, you're including both owner Ollies as well as marketeer Marys who are in the B2B business. Um, you had this recommendation to follow up on inactive users. And we do see that, there's a table in the case where people stop using it after some time, and that's when they might, stop subscribing to this. So I do think that a little bit of follow up, maybe on the phone, which is more of traditional outbound marketing, is appropriate. However, I think that if you focus on the B2B, then one way to reduce the churn rate is to sell them the content management system. And I didn't see that part of the recommendation. Is when you're focusing on the B2B, try to get them to initially buy the CMS, because if they do, then they're going to be retained for a longer period of time. That's one of the facts of the case. And then there was a final recommendation on a new premium category of pricing. So I would have liked to see what that recommended price level is. We know the current pricing levels, both groups, they pay $500 for 4 hours of consulting initially. And then the owner Ollies pay $250 per month, and the marketeer Marys pay $500 per month. So now that you're saying you're going to target B2Bs, both owner Ollies as well as marketeer Marys, what should be the new price point? And then what should be the price point for B2B? And then what should be this new, since you make a recommendation on premium pricing, what would be that level of new price? I think you said that there would be a value added in terms of the consultants educating them about the software. So, you need to work out what should be the new price. It would have been more specific. And then, if you're focusing on B2B, that means you're de-emphasizing the B2C. But, B2C are kind of lead users in this field of inbound marketing. So is there some way to, continue serving them? I know you have to, when you target one segment, you have to spend more on that particular segment. But you also want to leave the door open for the B2Cs to be able to just select the analytics and reports that they need. So I hope that option would continue. So those are my comments on Group 11's presentation. Are there any other comments from the class members before we will go to Group 11 and ask them if they want to react to anything that has been said? I still want the class members to evaluate the video presentation, both the style as well as the substance, and give them some good peer feedback. Okay, I don't see anybody making any comments on the chat box. So let me go to the Group 11 team members. You've heard a couple of comments from Lisa and Essie, and you heard a bunch of comments from me on your presentation. Do you have any reactions, any thoughts at all? So now it's Group 11's turn to react to the comments. Do we have any members of Group 11 in the audience? Team 11 has Maisa, Elena, Yanika, Maya. Would any of you like to comment on? Okay. Thank you, Maisa. I will just turn on your microphone. So.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
I have a bit of a sore throat, so my voice is not very good. But I would like to thank you for all the comments for you and also the students. One small notion, we did have some music in the beginning as well, so we had music in the beginning and in the end. I see your point about the price level. That was a very good point. And also, I think it would be maybe difficult to say that we should follow B2B and B2C both, because that maybe would be just following the same strategy as HubSpot is currently doing. So we wanted to take a clear path, a different path for them.
Very good. Thank you so much for your comments. I would like to ask you in general, I think you were one of the presenters on the video. How did you develop such a good presentation style? I mean, in terms of the delivery, it was so clear and there were no errors. And so I want you to share, if you can, how do you develop this kind of skill level in presentation? Maisa?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I wish I would have been the one presenting, but it was actually Maya and Janika who were the presenters. I'm not sure if Maya is here. She had an exam, so probably she could say something if she's here. But I think the girls are natural performers and they have very clear English, so they did very good job with that.
Yes, and to the credit of the team, you selected or you agreed to those two doing the presentation on your behalf. So you did recognize their natural talent, and that's something every team has to decide, who has what strengths and how you can let those strengths emerge. It doesn't have to be everybody participating equally in all aspects, right? As long as different people have different talents and use them, then you make the best effective presentation. And then again, with regard to the comment about the targeting, I do agree that you need to have a focus, and therefore your focus on B2B was the right approach. I just think that in terms of the product and the pricing, you could continue to have an offering that will be more tailored towards the B2C. One of the three. Let's say you have one offering for the B2B people, another one for the premium users who need more consulting advice, and then you have something in the middle where it's a lower price, but it just provides the analytics and the reports that the B2C need. So in your messaging and communication, you're not going to focus on B2C, but in terms of making something available that will meet their needs, then they can self-select. And so you will still get some spillover from the B2C customers.
Yeah, that's good point. So maybe not put that much effort on it, but keep it available so the people who want it can get it. So yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody else have any comments at all on group 11 before we go on to group 12? Or the recent interaction that Maisa and I had? Anybody wants to comment on that aspect? All right, then the next thing we do is we go to group 12's presentation. So I'm going to again share my screen, and then if it's working for you, you can view it in Zoom. If it's not, then please go to the Moodle link and you can review that. I believe this may be a little bit longer, maybe 20 minutes, but we will review the video and then come back.
Greetings everyone from group 12. We are Atte, Essi, Tommi, Sano and Mai. In the next few minutes, we will explain to you three main problems that HubSpot is encountering at the moment. We will also suggest some solution and recommendation that the company can follow in order to solve these issues. We hope you will enjoy the video. So let's begin. After studying the material, our group realized that even though HubSpot had just celebrated its milestone of reaching 1,000 customers, there are still several issues that could hinder the company from further growth. First of all, HubSpot has not yet been able to identify its target market, despite a quite clear market segmentation. At the moment, the company has two main segments: owner only, the small medium business owner, and marketer Mary, the marketing professional of medium and large company. These two groups of customers differ widely in terms of not only size, but also acquiring cost, churning rate, needs, preferences, and usage behavior. And these differences between owner-onlys and marketer Marys are significantly wide, making product standardization greatly challenging. Applications that are suitable for onlys might not fulfill Mary's needs. Marketing tactics and customer support to each of these groups also requires different customization. It is therefore wiser for HubSpot to invest on only one group of customers instead of spreading themselves thin in order to please everyone, at least for now. Secondly, HubSpot is also facing a rather high customer churn rate. In other words, a high number of customers have cancelled their partnership with HubSpot after a certain period, and there might be a few explanations to this problem. First of all, as pointed out in our study material, subscribing to HubSpot services doesn't mean a company can outsource 100% of its inbound marketing. HubSpot only provides the tools and data. It is the customer that need to make use of it in order to see a good result. Customers are expected to spend 10 hours per week on HubSpot. While this time investment might be possible for marketer Marys, whose primary job on marketing, it is challenging for owner-onlys who are responsible for a wide variety of tasks. Data has also shown that 15% of HubSpot customers have not signed into the system for the past 12 weeks, implying that these customers don't use HubSpot at all. In addition, after the first few consulting hours, customers are expected to do everything on their own unless they pay $500 for 4 more hours of consulting. The second reason for high churn rate problem is HubSpot lack of services that can support further growth. Exhibit 7 show that many of the company's services for owner-onlys, such as competitor analysis, marketing analytics, inbound marketing advice, are only suitable in the beginning. After customer has obtained enough information on inbound marketing, they can just do it on their own, thus canceling the subscriptions. This explains why many owner-onlys end the partnership with HubSpot after only 13 to 15 months. The third and final problem is that HubSpot also has a lot of difficulties in converting leads into new customers. Although the amount of new leads increased significantly throughout the year 2008, the company did not gain a lot of customers. This can be partially explained by an internal conflict. While the founder insists on using only inbound marketing, other employees and customers actually prefer a combination of inbound and outbound marketing. To be more particular, the sales team are traditionally responsible for converting leads into customers. However, in HubSpot, sales teams are restricted to contact only potential customers that were identified by the inbound marketing program. No outbound marketing, including cold calling, is allowed. While this restriction reflects the company's commitment to inbound marketing, it also creates frustration among employees.
As we can conclude, there are clear and important problems that HubSpot has been dealing with. Next, we would like to suggest some solutions for the presented problems. The first and main problem of the company is the question about target market. To simplify the solution, we have two options: owner-onlys or marketing Marys. The first solution is to focus on owner-onlys, which was suggested by venture partners. What onlys are looking for is a simple inbound marketing tool which would make their life easier and not more complex. As they do not have a lot of experience in marketing, they highly benefit from the consultation and help from HubSpot. As stated, owner-onlys make the majority of HubSpot's customer base, and they are cheaper to acquire. Focusing on owner-onlys is cost-efficient and lets HubSpot to generate bigger customer base faster. However, there are disadvantages of targeting onlys only. Owner-onlys are busy and have limited time and money to spend on additional services. Purchase decisions are made fast as the onlys do not have time or energy to get involved in the decision-making process. This, while being a benefit, is also a disadvantage. Acquiring an only is a fast process, but losing one can be fast as well. For these reasons, targeting owner-onlys means bigger consultation and customer onboarding efforts from HubSpot. Onlys, however, most likely won't be willing to pay extra for those services, as they seek for a cost-efficient service for their basic needs. The reason specified earlier, only also have a much bigger churn rate, which makes their lifetime value low. second solution is to focus on marketing Marys. While marketing Marys make a much smaller percentage in HubSpot's customer base, they pay more for the service and stay as customers for longer, which increase their customer lifetime value higher than Ollie's, therefore providing steadier and more profitable income. The disadvantages of Marys are the high acquiring costs and slow acquiring process. The purchasing decision is rarely made by Mary alone, but it involves corporate managers as well, which makes the process lengthy. Before giving our final recommendation, let's talk about solutions for other problems as well. Churn rate is one of HubSpot's biggest problems, and finding a solution to that is the only way to make owner-onlys profitable for the company. Luckily, there are several ways to decrease the churn rate. Currently, HubSpot is offering different products for Ollie's and Marys. After a quick analysis, we can see that the offer for Ollie's is more focused on analyzing services, such as competitor analysis, whereas with Marys, the offer includes also services, such as lead visit alerts. Analyses are important, but they only help in the first months and won't offer long-term value. This can be one reason why Ollie's cancel the subscription after a few months. They simply get what they can from HubSpot and move on. Continuous services, however, let the customers to have continuous value and benefit from HubSpot. So the solution for the churn rate would be to offer some long-term value services for the customer. Naturally, there is also weaknesses in this solution. Continuous services cost more for HubSpot, so to balance the costs, the company most likely needs to increase the price as well. Ollie's have had a monthly subscription fee of $250 per month, and increasing this price can lead to fewer customers. However, we see that this is the only way to offer continuous value for HubSpot's customers. The second solution is a new pricing strategy. As Halligan and Shah wondered, HubSpot's current pricing strategy was possibly not the most optimal one to generate and keep customers. One way to both reduce churn rate and to keep the current customers happy is to introduce new long-term pricing strategy. Currently, the company is billing their customers every month, but by changing the contracts to annual plans, they would keep the customers for a longer period of time and get profitable income for at least a year. To introduce the new contract type for suspicious customers, HubSpot could offer the annual plan with cheaper price than the monthly plan would be together, being, for example, $2,500 instead of $3,000, which is the 12 times 250. If it starts to seem that customers feel themselves too tight with annual plans, another option could be also to offer 3 months or 6 month plans. But with the idea that the longer the customer commits with the service, the cheaper the total price will be. The third solution is to educate the customers. To reduce the churn rate, HubSpot should educate both the new customers and all customers to use the product better. The first thing is to improve user onboarding and make sure the customers know how to use the service when they buy it. When the customers have bought the service, the company needs to make sure the customers stay aware of the benefits of the service. As stated, only regular logins lead to better usage and results, so the challenge is to make the customer to learn and understand the benefits of this. This will lead, however, to better customer commitment and gain benefits to both the customers and HubSpot. The weakness is that offering better customer service and producing new educational materials is time-consuming, and this will bring new costs from the used labor time for HubSpot. HubSpot could also engage with their customers better by sending emails to customers who haven't logged in regularly. For example, if a customer hasn't logged in for 3 days, HubSpot could send an email and ask what is wrong and whether they want personal help. This would give the customer an impression that the company cares about them. The email could also contain valuable information for the customer, for example, tell what benefits they get from regular use of the service. Usually there is a reason behind why a customer is not using the service, And if it is because the customer doesn't know how to use it or doesn't see the reason to use it, HubSpot should offer help and explain why it is important to use and log in regularly. If they are not using it because they don't get the value they want, HubSpot should definitely ask what they would need and find a better way to offer it. As with the previous point, this doesn't come without costs either. Contacting customers takes employees time, so probably HubSpot needs to hire more personnel to do this job. And lastly, to really understand why their customers are leaving them, HubSpot should conduct an NPS survey and ask the customers the reasons behind their decisions. With simple customer feedback about why they are leaving and what would make them to stay as customers, HubSpot would gain a lot of valuable information and use it to offer better services. This as well lays with disadvantages, which are the costs and time spent on conducting such surveys and questionnaires. Most likely the service could be both outsourced, which does save HubSpot's employees time but brings even higher costs. But as we know, information is never free. As we discussed earlier, HubSpot also has a problem of converting leads to new customers. While the company has had a great success in generating leads through the inbound marketing methods, this has not significantly increased the number of new customers. Internal conflict inside the company is driving the employees frustrated and makes the sales process even more difficult. The main question is whether HubSpot should let their salespersons to use outbound marketing efforts on their work. What we suggest is that the company would accept the fact that inbound marketing alone isn't enough. While it is understandable that the company wants to stay strong in their field and propagate their belief in inbound marketing, it should also be noted that not a single one of their customers is using HubSpot alone, but they also rely on outbound marketing actions. Since their customers are doing so, it is not wrong from HubSpot to do the same. In our opinion, using certain outbound marketing efforts to boost sales does not diminish the importance of inbound marketing. The fact is that the cost per lead is much lower on the inbound marketing efforts, and this fact alone can be one of their marketing messages, even if they use a combination of inbound and outbound efforts. For example, the email marketing that we suggested earlier is also considered as one kind of outbound marketing method.
Next, our final recommendations on how to improve the business performance. All customer groups have several benefits. We do propose that HubSpot makes a strategic move and chooses only one customer group to target for now. After evaluating these two options, we identified that focusing the sales efforts on owner OLEs as a target segment has the biggest growth potential for HubSpot. As marketing marries do have a lower return rate, acquiring them as new customers is actually significantly more expensive and time-consuming compared to owner OLEs as stated before. Targeting one specific target group gives HubSpot the opportunity to develop their marketing and sales funnel in a much more detailed and clear manner. Compared to boosting the customer acquisition efforts, enhancing the customer retention rate is much more cost-efficient in general. Stated in the beginning, the customer acquisition issue is highlighted with marketing marries customer segment. To this point, owner OLEs have converted a lot better, being much cheaper and faster to acquire. That also speaks for choosing the OLEs as the main target customer group. By concentrating on only one target customer group, HubSpot is likely to get much deeper insight of the biggest pain points that their potential customers have. This gives them the opportunity to create more targeted and compelling content on their own media platforms. That in turn will eventually have a positive effect on turning leads into actual money customers. Additionally, by targeting only one customer group, HubSpot is able to develop their brand image among the target audience much more efficiently, when they clearly identify themselves as a company that specialized at providing solutions for certain kinds of companies, which in this case are owner-onlys. As keeping the existing customer is cheaper than acquiring a new one, to fully solve HubSpot's business problems, owner-only's big churn rate has to be improved. For lowering the churn rate, HubSpot should focus on developing the processes of these four operations. First of all, as stated in the solutions part, owner-onlys are getting too narrow set of education for utilizing the service. Educating the existing customers should be continuous and included in the initial price. Even though this approach increases costs, it also provides significant value that's likely helping at retaining the existing customers for a longer time. The second issue to develop is having different kind of pricing models and pricing options. Offering diverse but simple set of contract options for each client's custom needs will help retain current customers as well. Until this point, HubSpot has been billing owner-onlys with monthly fee of €250, which is not the best pricing model and doesn't encourage customers to consider long-time investment into the product. By offering an annual contract with some financial benefits, HubSpot would like to be able to have its customers for a longer time of cooperation. Thirdly, if HubSpot wants its customers to renew their long-term improvements, customer base needs to be on front. HubSpot should continuously add value for its customers by offering free education in the form of seminars, webinars, and truly valuable newsletters that are available only to the customers. The last point to improve churn rate is having proactive follow-up on customers. HubSpot should definitely concentrate on establishing rewarding customer relations with its existing customers. They should follow how clients are doing on the platform and have regular side meetings on how to develop the marketing efforts. HubSpot should also react if they notice that customer is not visiting the platform. They could have a scheduled system that alerts when the customer has not visited the platform for 2 weeks, and the automated email is sent to a customer. If not chances for the next 2 weeks, HubSpot's client's relations manager or account manager should actually personally reach out the respective customer by phone and start the conversation. In short, by narrowing the targeted customers to always and improving the churn rate by the before-mentioned customer-oriented methods, HubSpot will have a tool to strengthen its brand and to increase its long-term profitability and growth.
Okay, so I hope you had a chance to review the group number 12's video presentation. So now we can comment on what things they did well. So I'm asking all of you to please go to the chat box and make your comments on what were the things that you learned were impressive about this presentation in terms of its style first. Okay, so Jenna has a comment. Unfortunately, I found it very difficult to follow because of the music. And I think that's a fair critique. It's good to perhaps have music at the beginning because you want to, catch people's attention, and then maybe at the end because you want to, leave everybody with a good impression. But I think the continuous background music and especially the volume level was quite high. So it may be better to discontinue the background music while you're focusing on the main content of the presentation, or really have it at a much lower volume so that it doesn't interfere with processing all the information on the slides, because you can appreciate there's a lot of information that people need to process. So thank you, Jenna, for that comment. Yanika says, very clear presentation. I especially like the analysis of different solutions with clear pros and cons of each option. So yes, I think it was a good structure. You had all the points, the problems, the solutions, and then the recommendations. And in the solutions, you did a good job of the analysis. And Maisa says, I really like the visuals. Yes, I think the cartoons were very, very interesting. They provided a kind of contrast from just having standard stock images or photographs. So I would like to ask the team to address where they got the cartoons from, what was the source of it, because that really added a nice light dimension to the whole presentations. But we'll come to that. We'll ask the response from the group later on. Let's see. Other comments people would like to make about what was good about the presentation style and perhaps what could be improved. So I also found that the voiceover and the commentary did add value in addition to just what was on the bullet points. So I think that this group made an effort to, write out a script where the script amplified the points on the slide. That's a good skill to develop. The slide itself should be brief, bullet points, but then when you speak, you should be able to help the audience process the slide information better and elaborate on what was on the bullet point. I think that's what they did quite well. Going now to the substance of the presentation in terms of their problem definition, analysis, and recommendations, does the audience have any comments on the actual substance of the presentation? What were the things that you thought were innovative or different than perhaps other solutions that you may have thought of? What was it that was persuasive? Were there any recommendations that you might have taken issue with? So again, let me start off while you're thinking about, your own comments. So this group 12 recommended that they target the owner ollies because they have a lower acquisition cost. And so it's basically the owner ollies are the low hanging fruit. They are pretty easy to acquire and they need more help. But then as the analysis showed, they have a high churn rate. So I think it would have been good to even try at the initial stage to get the owner ollies to buy into the CMS, the content management system, because the churn rate is lower for those people who use HubSpot to host their website. So that is something that could have been added there. Group number 12 also recommended enhancing the service for longer term value and having different prices for different needs. So again, there would have been, if there were some specifics, what are the different product and price levels that you want to offer? Because again, the more different products and prices you have, the complexity increases, and that pushes up the costs. So when you are trying to scale up, then you need to kind of standardize on some offerings. So, right now, currently they have only 2 offerings. Maybe going to 3 is a good idea. So if you're suggesting 3 different levels, what are the features of each level and what are the prices? It would have been nice to see some specifics on that. I do agree with your recommendation to be more proactive with regard to the follow-up, and this might require some phone calls and outbound marketing. If you look at the data in the case, there is a huge increase in the churn rate when you go from 12 to 18 months. So, and that is aggregate across both owner Ollie's and marketeer Mary's. So you need to perhaps, if there was some data available, to have that graph reproduced for owner Ollie's separately and figure out where does the churn rate go up. Then that would be the time at which to hit the owner Ollie's with a phone call asking, are you ready to renew? I like the discounted annual plans and 6-month and 3-month plans because they can lock in the customers. And then there was the suggestion to, do more education by way of seminars, webinars, newsletters. I think already HubSpot is doing that. It was in the case. They do have all this content. They have YouTube videos. So there was perhaps not as much value in that recommendation because they're already doing it. So those are some of my comments. Let's see if anybody else has any comments on this group number 12's recommendations or analysis. Okay, so now if we have some members of group number 12 here, could you please share your reactions to the comments that some of the classmates have made or that I have made? And we can do that. Essie, I see your hand is up. Let me give you the microphone. Please go ahead, Essie.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
There's a lot of things in my mind right now, but one thing, the pictures were actually royalty-free stock pictures, so it was not like made by us or anything, so they were really just stock pictures, but it's nice to hear that you like them and the others like them.
Can you tell us the website where those are available?
I don't think that I remember anymore, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I found the page just by Googling, so I haven't used it before. And then the other things, Maisa was saying that she thinks that choosing only Ollie's would be a too narrow solution. And we were also discussing about this with our group, but we thought that it's still better to have a narrow segment and actually focus on that and reach the potential customers on that segment. And since Ollie's were those like business owners, it's still not too narrow. There is hundreds of thousands of businesses and small businesses in the US and in the world. So it's not like a small, like a niche segment in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's true. If you look at the data, I think the number of businesses that have less than 25 employees, and owner Oli belongs to that category, is in the millions. And the Marketeer Mary's is a smaller number. So if you look at, just the number of customers, I think owner Oli is the bigger segment. However, if you look at the data in Exhibit 5, I believe, Marketeer Mary's is growing at a faster rate than the owner Ollie's. So that's where the trade-off becomes difficult. You have the low-hanging fruit is the owner Ollie's. There's a lot of them, but they are not as committed and they turn over fast, and they are not growing as much. The Marketeer Mary's are growing, the number of businesses coming into that category, because when the owner Ollies succeed and grow, they will become Marketeer Marys, right? So
yes, I agree.
So that's perhaps the point, is that again you need to have something in there in your product offerings and pricing that might be the Marketeer Marys might self-select, because they are the lead users of the future, so to speak.
Yeah, the thing is that you said that Marketing Marys are growing, and it's true, but our solution was focused on keeping the owner Ollies. It's cheaper to acquire them, and when they are our customers or HubSpot customers, it's like we were focusing on actually like reducing the churn rate. So when we have the customer base with owner Ollies, they would actually stay as our customers. And when they find value of it, even if they would turn on our Marketing Marys at some point, they would still maybe like to keep HubSpot because they have found it useful because of these solutions that we suggested them to do.
Good. So, taking more of a lifetime value perspective would be good. And
yes.
In the short term, we need to have a focus, but we might have to evolve the targeting over time.
Yes. And I'm sorry, there was just one thought in my mind. I think I lost it now.
That's okay. If you remember it, you can come back to it. Okay, anybody else would like to comment on any of the substance of Group 12's presentation? So again, good job, good effort. I do like the way both of these Group 11 and 12 have done their presentations. Now let's go on to Group number 9. If we have any members, I don't have time to really show the entire presentation, but if you've had a chance to review it, or just let me ask the members of Group number 9, could you summarize in what respects your presentation was similar or different to what we've just seen in Group number 11 and Group number 12? So now we are turning to a discussion on Group number 9's presentation. In Moodle, there is a PowerPoint that they uploaded with a voiceover. And so if there are any members of Group number 9, Group number 9 is Hans, Arla, Marcus, Yena, and Son. Could you just summarize, and I'll give you the microphone. If you put up your hand, tell us in what ways your presentation was similar or different than Group number 11 or 12. So I don't see any member of team number 9 volunteering. Okay, I do see Arla saying, I'm sorry, my microphone doesn't work. Go ahead and use the chat, Arla, that would be fine. So is there any member of team number 9 who would like to comment on their presentation either by mic or through the chat box at all? Okay, thank you, Arla. Focused on quite different aspects of problem definition and analysis and providing different solutions compared to the previous group as we look not only into the Ollies and Marys, but also to other aspects. Right. So I made some notes while when I first reviewed your presentation, and I do see that in your action plan, you said you should choose your segment and invest, but I did not see any clear emphasis on either owner Ollies or marketeer Marys. So is it the case that you wanted to target both of those equally? So again, just to repeat my comment, I saw in your action plan, you made a general recommendation to choose your segment and invest in it. But I did not see any recommendation whether to focus on the OO or the MM. So is it your position that you should target both of them equally? A second comment I made in my notes is that in your action plan, you recommended to use anchor pricing. Could you just explain a little bit about what you meant by anchor pricing? Okay, thank you, Son, for your comment. We think that both are potential segmentations, but we would like to focus first on the owner Ollies because we also think that the high churn rate can be fixed with content management system and more service support. Okay, thank you, Son. That makes sense, and that's similar to what group number 12 also recommended, but it wasn't clear to me from your presentation that that was what you intended. So try to, in future, try to make your recommendations more clear and specific. And then could somebody in your team explain your recommendation to use anchor pricing? because that was not a term in the case. So it's good to explain what you meant by anchor pricing. Can anybody else in the audience explain what is anchor pricing? Maybe it's a term that you've learnt in another course. I mean, I have some ideas, I can speculate, but I want to be clear from the team's presentation what they meant by anchor pricing. So I don't see anybody offering an explanation on what anchor pricing is. So my one suggestion to everyone is don't use any terms that the audience might not be familiar with, and if you do, then please explain what it is. Otherwise it leaves that question mark on what is it. My own interpretation. Oh, okay. Arla says, I'm sorry, but the team member in charge of that concept is not attending. I understand. Thank you for your response, Arla. But I hope that you agree that, it is not something that is, easily understood by everybody. To me, when I hear anchor pricing, it means some kind of reference price that we might have, that this software should be priced at about $250, and then your actual price comes in below that, and that becomes attractive, right? You feel you've got a bargain. But again, I'm not sure what the recommendation was. And further, this is an example where the recommendation was not connected with some of the analysis previously. So again, don't introduce something at the recommendation stage unless it was analyzed. Otherwise, it's not very persuasive. And then I think I accept your action plan recommendation to charge upfront for the software, lock in customers in order to increase customer retention. Okay, so Arla also thinks that it is a form of reference. In that case, maybe we should have known what is the reference price that you're recommending, and moreover, what's the actual price relative to the reference price, so that it does feel like a bargain. For example, if your reference price is 250, if your anchor price is 250 per month, then the actual price level, if it's 200 per month, then that shows the customer that it's a bargain. Okay. So I have one final question for group number 12, and that is, what made you choose a PowerPoint format with voiceover as opposed to actually doing a video? So to me, that was quite different. All the other teams did a video. Even if they had PowerPoint, they actually filmed the PowerPoint and then put it into a movie format. And group number 9 decided to only do a PowerPoint with voiceover. So I would like to know what affected that decision. Did anybody in the audience view the group number 9's PowerPoints, and what did you think about it in terms of the impact compared to some of the other presentations? So this is my last question for on the group number 9's presentation, and this can be answered either by the team members or even by anybody in the audience who might have actually viewed their presentation. They did it in PowerPoint with voiceover. So somebody has made this comment. Yes, it would have been nice if the voice was an actual person's voice, in my opinion. There was an actual person's voice. The PowerPoint did have voice as part of it, but perhaps that audio was not very clear. I think the audio recording could have been a bit better. Maisa says, I think the team had used an automated voice which made the presentation feel a bit distant. So was it an automated voice or was it an actual person's voice? Can somebody in team 9 answer the question? I think the general feedback is the audio clarity could have been improved, but was it an automated voice or was it some actual person's voice? Okay, I'm not getting any response from the team and I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I think maybe the person who did the voice recording is not here with us today. But in general, I have to say that, the assignment was to do a marketing video. And, I think the PowerPoint is just a shortcut. I would like to urge the team members in this team number 9 to try to develop the skill to, at some point, develop the tools and the knowledge to do a real video, because it does have a better impact. The flow is much nicer. In the PowerPoint, we have to click on everything. And for example, I could see the notes on every slide. So it's not as polished a presentation as the video would have been. But I understand the trade-offs in time and effort that you have to make with regard to these assignments. But in terms of, preparing for a marketing career in the year 2018 and beyond, I do think that learning how to make videos inexpensively on your own is a skill worth having and worth developing. And so that was the That was the requirement in the assignment. Okay, anybody has any closing thoughts on group number 12? Otherwise, we can go to exploring other issues in the case. So, were there any issues that anybody had in terms of wanting some more discussion and clarification? This would be a good time to turn to that. So now we are open to discussing any other issues in the case that you're curious about or not clear about, or some new approaches. Even the other teams that wrote their papers instead of the videos, you might have had certain things that were similar or different than the presentations. So would you like to summarize what you did? Of course, I will read all the papers and provide detailed comments and evaluations of those. But for now, we still have about 20 minutes. Would you like to delve into any other aspects of the case or any other team's work in the written assignment? So let me start out with a discussion question, which is different from anything in the presentations. And that is, how is the HubSpot product similar or different than Salesforce.com, which is described in the case? Go back to the case. We've got descriptions of what Salesforce does and what HubSpot does. So can you tell me what is the difference between HubSpot and Salesforce? That's a nice point to discuss, because both of these products are commercially available. So once again, I'm going to share, and I go to a Google Docs. Let's say, how is HubSpot similar or different than Salesforce.com? That's a question for discussion. And either you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat box. Okay, thank you, Maisa, for your response. Salesforce is closing the sales leads. HubSpot is more on creating them. Good. Without even going back to the case, I think HubSpot is focused on generating leads and Salesforce is for closing the leads. Yes, both of you are right on point. If we look at the process, you want to convert, you have visitors to the website, you want to convert them into prospects, that is those who show some interest in the product. Then you want to convert them into leads, and then you want to convert these into opportunities. So what's the difference? Visitors, anybody who comes across HubSpot's website, they don't do anything beyond just checking out some videos or some materials without even registering. So once somebody registers on the website, then they become a prospect. That is, they're showing some interest. Okay. But again, prospects have different levels of interest in the product. And so the lead is the one that's a qualified prospect. That is, they have a validated need, and they are, they show some real interest in purchasing the product. So the way to go from prospects to leads is to see how much engagement the prospect has with the things on your website. Have they downloaded a white paper? Did they participate in a webinar? So those are the things that earn you points as a prospect. And then at some point, the prospect becomes a lead when you cross a certain threshold of points earned. And then the opportunity is when the further engagement makes the lead realize, or makes HubSpot realize that these people are ready to buy within this time frame. That is, they're going to buy this quarter. So they're the highest form of lead qualification. And then at that point, the opportunities are handed over to a salesperson who will actually call the customer and then maybe submit a proposal, and then, do all the negotiations necessary to convert them into a closing the deal. So, HubSpot does all these first three stages up to lead qualification, and then it turns over to the salespeople the opportunity. And it's the salespeople who then use the Salesforce to track and monitor opportunities all the way to conversion. So then this finally results in conversion or sale. So HubSpot is more concerned with the first three stages: creating leads and qualifying them, even nurturing them. And then this part is done by salesforce.com. Now you have to realize that's the situation in the case. Now, over time, what has happened is that, Salesforce has integrated backwards into the lead generation, and they've acquired a company called Pardot. So now Salesforce has the capability to do all of these things. And that's a real threat to HubSpot. But that was the initial evolution of the business. Salesforce.com existed prior to HubSpot, and HubSpot's unique contribution has been to be a pioneer in this space of inbound marketing, and then do all of this upfront process to create leads, to qualify leads, and to nurture them. So that's good to have an understanding. Does anyone here have any experience working with either of these softwares, either HubSpot or Salesforce? Would you like to share any experience of how it has been? How do you find them, and useful or not? Is it worth the monthly subscription? Do you have any other issues about the case that you would like to bring up? Maisa says, in our company, HubSpot is used to gather inquiries for quotes. They are then turned into leads to Salesforce after making a quote or purchase. Thank you. And Maisa, do you think it's working for your company? Arla says, yes, I do on both. We've been using HubSpot as a publishing and contact tool, and have only just started to use Salesforce to mark our hours, etc. I'd say that HubSpot is very clear to use. Thank you, Arla, for sharing your experience. The benefit of Salesforce is that you can actually not only keep track of revenues by customer, but you can also keep track of costs per customer. So how many sales calls is it taking? And if you can put a cost estimate on the time of the salesperson, then you can even calculate the profitability and the return on investment by individual customer. So that's the real power of Salesforce. Is, in traditional marketing, we do our profitability analysis on the segment level. Are we making money on this segment, or on the product level? Are we making money on the whole product? But with Salesforce, you can track profitability at the individual customer level, which is quite powerful. Hans says, I've used Salesforce at my previous employer, which is used to monitor and share customer and prospect visits and the progress of sales negotiation. Thank you, Hans. So that's right. The manager of the salespeople can get a lot of dashboards on various aspects of the pipeline. For example, what are the projected opportunities for this quarter? And then as the quarter proceeds, you can see how many deals have been closed, and are you getting towards the goal of 100% of opportunities, or are you making progress by exceeding 75%? And then you can break it down by salesperson, so the sales manager can see who is performing well and who's not performing well, and then go and coach and mentor them as needed. Maisa says, HubSpot is very good and works well. I don't know that how well the salespeople use it, but the linkage is very easy. So, I don't know whether you are working for a small business or a large business. If it's a small business, then of course it's the salespeople who will use HubSpot. But in larger enterprises, the HubSpot and the lead generation and the tracking and the nurturing is done by some online marketing group, and the salespeople are separate. And then there's an official handover at some point from the online marketing to the salespeople. But this whole combination of HubSpot plus Salesforce helps to align sales and marketing better. In traditional marketing, it wasn't possible to easily say what's the contribution of marketing if marketing is not doing sales, right? If they're only doing advertising and brand management and marketing research, then the contribution of marketing cannot be translated into a dollar or a euro metric. And now with these types of tools, both HubSpot and Salesforce, you can really see what marketing is contributing to leads and how many of those leads convert to actual deals. So marketing becomes much more accountable, and there's a better alignment of marketing and sales. So this has helped the practice, because earlier the salespeople used to have some kind of disconnect with marketing and blame them for all of their problems, and the marketing people would complain that the salespeople are not doing their jobs. We know that in practice, sales is a very important aspect of marketing, and we do need to co-align those. And Hans says, yes, and also good for big companies as this information is shared across departments. Good. So, are there any other issues from the case that you would like to bring up? So both of these companies are doing extremely well even today. Salesforce is headquartered in San Francisco, and they have a CEO, Mark Benioff, who is a philanthropist. He gives a lot of, donations to the city and to the causes, social causes here and so on. So Salesforce is considered a very good place to work. And even HubSpot, I was reading in a survey that it's one of the best companies to work for. And that's in Boston, completely different coast of the country. So both of these companies are doing extremely well. Essie has a comment. It was quite interesting and difficult to work in this case since the data was so old. The current situation in the company is, of course, completely different now, and it was naturally a bit difficult to put your mind back in time and think how the company should have dealt with these problems. Yes, I do think it's a challenge, Essie, but I hope you can also appreciate that the pedagogical technique of the case study is to put you back in a situation where you have limited information, because that's the way you will face even any contemporary problems or issues. The issues may change, but you will always have limited information. And so the case study method teaches you to, deal with that and make decisions under uncertainty. And I'm sure even today there are other products and services. Now these companies have proliferated. They have many more product offerings, but each of them will have their own targeting issue of what part of the market they should start out with and how that targeting will evolve over time. So the data do change, but the principles and the way you apply them and the way you think about the problems, I don't think that really changes. You still need to have all of the skill sets that the case study method teaches. Right. Yeah. So with the Tesla case, everything was really recent. So this was different to put you back. And especially if you've been working with these products, then you know that they have more functionality and different price levels than what was in the case. So I do understand the challenge behind it. And so, we've done a number of different cases, 3 cases throughout the semester. Both Amazon and Tesla were pretty recent. And then this one was a little bit older. We keep trying to look for cases that are more recent, but sometimes the the issues and the problems even in the old cases are good enough to analyze. Any other comments or anything about the case or the course itself? We've got still 3 minutes if anybody would like to comment on any aspect of the course in general. So these 3 cases were kind of quote unquote artificial cases. You had to restrict yourself to mostly the material in the case. Now, when you do the business case, the next assignment, you will apply all your training and your knowledge and skills to solving something that is real life and based in Finland in the Lapiranta region. So that will be a live case, if you will. And then you'll have the final exam on December 21st. If there are no, yes, I see a comment from Jenna, very interesting topics in the course. It was good to read the book, even though the examples were old. The theoretical concepts were very interesting. Thank you, Jenna, for the comment. I hope that the videos provided a little bit more contemporary examples in the book, and we are in the process of updating all our materials. So hopefully we'll come out with another book soon. But I do want to take, if there's no more comments, I do want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your engagement and vigorous participation in this course. It's not easy to do an online course, either from the teaching or the learning point of view. It's not definitely as rich and interactive as a live classroom, but it is efficient. I hope that you all appreciate some of the innovations we've done, like you're able to access this from the convenience of your homes. This is a first for us. We were previously, last year, we were asking people to come to a classroom, but then we got the feedback that, if it's an online course, why shouldn't it be available from anywhere? And we are taking this, we're trying this out. I think the Zoom technology has worked most of the time. I know there was one session where there was a delay, but that was not due to the technology. It was more about the administration and the registration of accounts, and myself and Hannes having overlapping accounts, so it wouldn't let us log in at the same time. But I think the technology has worked quite well, and I appreciate all the effort that you've put into the written assignments, into the video cases, and into reviewing all of the materials. So I want to wish you all the best for the remainder of this course and the rest of your marketing studies. As somebody who's been immersed in marketing for more than 30 years, I can assure you that it is one of the most exciting subjects that one could ever study. And I want to encourage you to hang in there. The practice of marketing has a lot of improvements to be made. And I think you are all the bright young people who will do it in the future. So again, thanks a lot. And I wish you all the very best in the future. Bye-bye.